He was just a single dad soldier, scarred by war and trying to raise his little girl in peace. But one afternoon, when he saw a group of bullies cornering a terrified college girl in a parking lot, he didn't know that saving her would drag him into a world of private jets, billion-dollar secrets, and a powerful CEO who'd stop at nothing to test whether he was hero or threat. What happens next will leave you breathless. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because stories like this about bravery, fate, and the people destiny forces together deserve to be heard. Daniel Cross never planned on being anyone's hero again. After 10 years in the army, losing his brothers in the desert and his wife to illness, all he wanted was silence, the kind of silence that comes from small-town mornings and his daughter Lily's laughter echoing through their tiny rented home. He worked double shifts as a mechanic, sometimes security guard at night, and every dollar went to Lily's school fund. He had no time for anything else. But fate never checks your schedule. It happened on a gray Thursday, outside a college campus where Daniel had gone to drop off spare parts for a professor who restored old cars. He heard shouting near the parking lot, a cruel, mocking kind of laughter that always lit up old memories from his military days, the kind that made his pulse tighten. When he turned, he saw them, 3 guys in varsity jackets surrounding a young woman, their smirks sharp, their words ugly. She was clutching her bag like a shield, her voice trembling as she told them to back off. Daniel's instincts kicked in before his mind could catch up. He crossed the lot in 6 strides, his boots thudding hard, and his voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Hey, you boys lost?" They turned, sizing him up, but the calm in Daniel's eyes was in something they understood. One of them sneered, "Mind your business, old man." Daniel gave a half-smile that wasn't friendly. "I'm making it my business." The biggest one stepped forward, puffing his chest until Daniel moved like a shadow. One swift motion of disarming, twisting the bully's arm behind his back, and sending him down with a gasp of pain. The others backed off immediately, their courage evaporating. "You done?" Daniel said quietly, his tone level but final. They scattered like scared dogs. The girl, small, fragile-looking, with bright, stormy eyes, looked at him with a mix of fear and awe. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked, softening his voice. She nodded shakily. "Yeah, broken bar, thank you." "A broken bar? I didn't think anyone would step in." He smiled, shrugging. "No one deserves to be treated like that." He offered his hand, and she hesitated before taking it. "I'm Emily," she said softly. "Daniel," he replied. "You should tell campus security." She sighed. "They won't do much. Their parents donate to the college." That line made Daniel pause. Something in her tone wasn't just frustration, it was exhaustion. He could tell she was used to being underestimated, but not weak. He offered to walk her to her car. She agreed. They talked, or rather, she tried to thank him, and he brushed it off with quiet grace. She learned he was a single dad, former army, now working nights. He learned she was studying business administration. They parted ways, both thinking it was a one-time encounter. But fate doesn't do coincidences. 2 days later, Daniel was called to a downtown auto garage where a client with an emergency repair had specifically requested him. When he arrived, the place was spotless, filled with high-end vehicles he could only dream of owning. A young assistant greeted him nervously. "Mr. Cross, right this way." Daniel followed him into a private bay and froze. There she was, Emily, standing beside a black Rolls-Royce. But she wasn't in jeans and a hoodie anymore. She was in a tailored suit, hair tied neatly, posture sharp. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "Daniel?" He blinked. "Emily, what are you?" Before he could finish, a tall man in his 60s entered, stern, commanding, the kind of presence that made rooms fall silent. "You must be the soldier who saved my daughter," the man said, his voice deep and cold. "I'm Richard Halden, CEO of Halden Global." Daniel suddenly understood why Emily had looked familiar. He'd seen that last name on skyscrapers, on business magazines, even on the news. "Sir," he nodded respectfully. "I didn't do anything special, just stopped a few kids." But the older man studied him like a general assessing a threat. "Men don't step in without reason." "What do you want from her?" Daniel frowned. "Nothing, I just helped." Emily stepped in, defensive now. "Dad, stop." "He doesn't want anything," Richard's gaze softened only slightly toward his daughter. "You're too trusting, Emily. People see your last name, and they see a target." He turned to Daniel again. "I appreciate what you did. My assistant will see you're compensated." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I don't want your money." Richard's brows rose. "Everyone wants something, Mr. Cross. You're a single father working late shifts. I checked." That made Daniel's stomach twist. "You looked into me?" The CEO's tone didn't waver. "I protect what's mine." Daniel stood his ground. "Then you should know I don't take handouts." "Keep your money." He turned to leave, but Emily caught his arm. "Please don't be mad at him. He's just a broken bar protective." Daniel looked into her eyes, saw the sadness there, and nodded. "I get it. Take care of yourself, Emily." Then he walked out, not realizing that moment would change everything. That night, his little girl Lily found him sitting on the porch, lost in thought. "Daddy, you look sad," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "Just tired, kiddo." But inside, something was stirring at a feeling that he'd walked away from something important. A few days later, a black car pulled up outside his small house. A man in a suit stepped out. "Mr. Cross, Ms. Halden requests your presence." Daniel frowned. "Tell her I'm busy." But then Lily peeked out the window and said, "Daddy, that's the nice lady from the park." Emily was standing beside the car, smiling shyly, holding ice cream. "Peace offering," she said. Daniel laughed despite himself and invited her in. "Lily, ever the curious one?" asked Emily. "If she was a princess because you look like one." Emily chuckled. "Kind of. My dad's rich, but I'm just a broken barmy." They spent the afternoon together, and Daniel saw a different side of her. Not the billionaire's daughter, but a woman who'd grown up surrounded by money yet starved of normalcy. She loved hearing about his military stories, about how he'd once carried a wounded comrade through a sandstorm. In turn, she confessed how suffocating her world was. A constant guards, no real friends, expectations heavier than gold. For the first time in years, Daniel felt seen. But peace never lasts. A week later, Daniel came home to find his door ajar. Inside, everything was untouched except for one thing: a letter on the table, stamped with the Halden seal. It read, "Stay away from my daughter. This is your final warning." Daniel clenched his fists. He could handle threats, but involving his daughter crossed the line. The next morning, he went straight to the Halden Tower. Security tried to stop him, but one look at his soldiers' glare made them hesitate. He walked into Richard Halden's office unannounced. "You don't scare me," Daniel said calmly, "but you don't threaten my kid." Richard looked up, unbothered. "Then stop seeing mine. She's not your property," Daniel replied. "She's your daughter." The CEO's eyes hardened. "You think I don't know that? I've spent decades protecting her from vultures. You think you're different? You're a man with nothing, and that's dangerous." Daniel stepped closer. "You're wrong. I've got everything that matters. My daughter, my honor." He turned to leave, but Richard's voice followed him. "If you truly care about Emily, walk away." Daniel tried. He really did. But Emily showed up again, tears in her eyes. "You can't let him scare you off," she said. "I don't care what he thinks." Daniel sighed. "Emily, your world and Mania, they don't mix." She looked at him fiercely. "Then let's make them." Their relationship deepened quietly, hidden from her father's empire. They met at small diners, in parks, where Emily could be free from bodyguards. Lily adored her, called her Ms. Sunshine. For a while, it felt like hope, but secrets never stay buried. One night, as Daniel returned from work, two men grabbed him outside his garage and threw him into a black SUV. Hours later, he was in a dark warehouse, facing Richard Halden again. Only this time, the older man looked shaken. "I didn't order this," Richard said coldly to someone behind him. A third voice answered, "No, I did." From the shadows stepped a man Daniel recognized, one of the bullies from the campus, only now dressed in an expensive suit. "Small world," he sneered. "My dad's a board member at Halden Global. You embarrassed me. Time to return the favor." Daniel's hands were bound, but his eyes burned with fury. "You don't want to do this, kid." The punk smirked. "You're not the one in charge here anymore." But suddenly, the door burst open. Emily stormed in, flanked by security. "Untie him, now!" she barked. The bully frowns. Emilia, that's Miss Halden to you, she snapped, and if you or your father touch him again, I'll have both of you blacklisted from every major corporation in the country. The man backed off instantly. She rushed to Daniel, hands trembling as she untied him. Are you okay? He nodded, staring at her with something between shock and admiration. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, she whispered. You saved me. Now it's my turn. The next morning, Richard Halden called Daniel to his office again, but this time, his tone was different. You could have sued me, he admitted. Or worse. Instead, you kept quiet. Daniel shrugged. Not my style. Richard looked down, then back up. My daughter is stubborn. Like her mother, I can't stop her from seeing you, but I can at least understand you. He gestured to a chair. Sit. They talked for hours about war, loss, loyalty, and love. By the end, Richard's sternness had softened. If you ever hurt her, he warned quietly, you'll wish the army had finished you first. Daniel chuckled. Fair enough. Months passed, and Daniel's world transformed in ways he never expected. Halden Global offered him a job as head of security, a position Emily swore she had nothing to do with, though her smile said otherwise. Lily got into a better school. Emily and Daniel's relationship grew stronger, not built on wealth, but on truth. Yet the biggest twist came when Daniel discovered that Richard wasn't the only one with secrets. While fixing one of the CEO's classic cars in the company's private hangar, Daniel found an old photo wedged in the glove box, a photo of his late wife, in military uniform, standing beside a younger Richard Halden. Confused and shaken, he confronted him. The older man went pale. She was my sister, Richard finally said. You married my sister, Daniel. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Emilia Brokenbar was his niece by marriage. That makes us. Daniel started, but Richard raised a hand. You're not blood. And if she loves you, I won't stand in the way. Maybe fate brought you both here to fix what were broke. The truth changed everything, not the love, but the understanding that destiny had tied their lives together long before that parking lot. A year later, standing under a clear summer sky, Daniel watched Emily play with Lily in the garden of their new home. Richard, sitting nearby, smiled faintly. You gave me back something I'd forgotten, a trust. Daniel nodded. You gave me something I didn't think I'd ever have, a family. And for the first time since the battlefield, he felt peace. The man who once lived in shadows had found light, not through power or money, but through the courage to do what was right, even when it cost him everything. Because sometimes, saving someone isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of the life you were meant to live.